So welcome everyone to the Zero Waste Living Lab webinar. 2022 will be a pivotal year for reuse. That's what I read this week. It was one of the key messages from 16 experts in the Reuse Landscape newsletter. I don't know who've read it. Some of you might have contributed, but it was clear from all of them, the momentum is there. Consumers are demanding better solutions for waste. Governments are looking into waste reducing policies as they see the waste issue growing. And companies are also slowly looking into alternative ways of producing because their raw material costs are high, product inventories are low, investors are prioritizing sustainable growth. So the conclusion of these 16 experts was all these stakeholders start to understand reuse and they see the opportunities. Yet, no, or so. It is the right time to move beyond small-scale pilots and make reuse mainstream, that we build solutions, infrastructure, policies, and make 2020 really a pivotal year for reuse. And that's why it's a great momentum to have this webinar together with you, to join each other here to celebrate 3 years of Zero Waste Living Lab. I'm Laura Willeman. I'm leading the program together with Elich in Indonesia, and together with many others amongst yourselves. Zero Waste Living Lab has worked hard the past 3 years to lay the foundations for a reuse ecosystem in Indonesia. We're eager to share with you how we did that and what we see as crucial next steps. And we're eager to also discuss that with leaders and stakeholders like yourselves that we actively worked with the past years to build up this reuse revolution in Indonesia and now also in Malaysia. We'll discuss key topics that we believe have been and will be crucial in building a reuse ecosystem. So we will first introduce you to the Zero Waste Living Lab. And after that, we'll discuss first part. We will be discussing building the solutions. We'll focus on Koinpack. It's a solution to tackle sachets. We use this solution to explain how we collaborate with other companies to accelerate change. Secondly, we are looking into policy and market development and discuss the urgency to use the government to accelerate the reuse movement. And finally, we will close, of course, by looking at the roles and opportunities for finance to scale. And please stay, because we will round up with a Q&A. After each session, we give the possibility to answer questions from the Q&A. So please fill in your questions in the chat. Don't wait till the end of the webinar. And we will answer one of these questions, and we will also answer questions in the chat. So yes, first, we're looking into Zero Waste Living Lab, one step back. The overarching ambition of Zero Waste Living Lab is to reduce, very focused on single-use plastics and reduce them at the source. We believe in the role of waste prevention to solve the plastics problem. And we do this by creating and building upstream solutions, like many of you might know, in reuse and refill. And we actively showcase the impact and our learnings so that we inspire others and show how it can be done. We would like to start by showing a video as it is. We made a beautiful video about a year ago, and it really shows the picture of what we've been doing. So let me see how I can.
Saving our planet from the plastic waste crisis means implementing systemic solutions that tackle the issue at the source. Indonesia is the second biggest contributor of plastic into the ocean, which is why our work starts here. At the Zero Waste Living Lab, we build impact-driven ventures that eliminate single-use plastic packaging through reuse and refill models. Our mission is to overturn the traditional linear make, use, dispose model and transform it into a circular one that benefits both people and planet. Look at Ekananda, the one-stop shop solution to free the hospitality and retail industry from single-use plastics. In 2020 alone, it has saved more than 2 million plastic bottles by providing the hospitality sector with a full-service water purification system, saving them plastics and costs. Our reuse venture Koinpack which offers a circular alternative to plastic sachets, shows that circularity is both feasible and efficient across all income levels. New models like these are contributing to Indonesia's rapid development as a sustainable showcase nation, with a circular economy and new opportunities for its people. We strive to inspire large-scale change by leveraging local and global partnerships to bring our reuse solutions to scale. By building radically new delivery models and rethinking supply chains, we are facilitating cross-sector stakeholder involvement for true systemic change. Together, we can enable a radically more sustainable consumption paradigm and pave the way for a future where circularity is at the heart of the economy. Become part of the solution and join the reuse revolution.
Great. So this is a video we made about a year ago, introducing Zero Waste Living Lab. Now we would actually I would like to give the floor to our CEO, Michiel, Elich, and Poggenpohl. She's our venture builder, and she's been part of Zero Waste Living Lab from day one. So, well, I think the video did a great job in introducing Zero Waste Living Lab. Michiel, I would like to ask you, what made you start this program at Enviu 3 years ago, focus on plastics in Indonesia, and what do you believe is the role of business in creating system change in plastic pollution, as we really see changing the system there is also needed?
Thank you, Laura, and also from me, a warm welcome to everybody. I'm glad you're joining the reuse revolution here. So if I look back 4 or 5 years ago, I would say the program was born from, let's say, multiple layers of frustration and an opportunity to make a big impact. If I would start with the frustration, I think around that time it became clear what actually sort of mess we're making from our planet through the plastic waste we're creating, and also the urgency and the scale of the problem there. I think the second frustration was that but also the Enviu team, we wanted to do something about that also from an individual perspective. And it was really not possible. If I wanted to go to my own sort of plastic-free life, there were just no solutions without spending amazing amounts of money and time. So we just didn't know what to do ourselves, even as sort of an individual. The third issue, frustration, was when we dove into the topic, is actually that we saw there were a lot of organizations thinking about it, speaking about it, but the action was lacking. And the fourth frustration back then was that when there was a conversation, it was about sort of cleaning up the mess instead of preventing the mess from even happening. So it was about mopping instead of closing the tap. So a lot of frustration in our team around this. But on the good side, a big opportunity to make a difference as Enviu, because as most of you will know, we are a venture builder. We create and build solutions for positive change. And actually what we saw here was a big urgency, but also a big opportunity to put our added value in here and start by creating solutions that could drive that change. We did see that multiple solutions was needed if we were really looking at changing the system. And we also saw that it should go hand in hand with building the ecosystem, both for our solutions to thrive, but also for existing and future solutions if we really want to make reuse the new normal. So that's where we started in 2017. We took the bold move to step into reuse and see if we can prove alternative models there. And I must mention that it's really, really thankful to Plastic Solution Fund and Greenpeace at that time to join our bold journey there, because it's because of them actually that we're here sharing learnings of this amazing program. So thanks for taking that risk at that time.
Great, thank you, Michiel. And indeed, thank you to those funders taking the risk. Well, then Anna, I would actually like to invite you to tell us a bit more what did these 3 years yield? What are the outcomes of the program? And maybe, well, take us along what surprised you, what were the challenges, make it tangible.
Sure. Well, you can imagine that, of course, for 3 years, I can probably fill the whole webinar of exciting stories, what has been happened. But I think, I mean, first of all, I'm truly excited on where we are today, where we've come. I think Michiel touched upon that actually in the start, people were like alternative delivery systems. I have no idea what you're talking about. I know recycling. I don't get it, what you guys are trying to do. And I think now today, I mean, it's really exciting. We have 10 pilots and startup showcase ventures in Indonesia as well as in Malaysia up and running. We have saved more than 14.2 million single-use plastic items. I know it's a huge number. That sounds abstract, but it's actually about the size or the weight of one blue whale. If you haven't seen a blue whale yet, it's about 1,000 washing machines. That's maybe a bit more tangible. And yeah, we have reached more than 150,000 people through our webinars, our social media channels, and different events and meetups. And I think that to really fuel the reuse movement and the refill movement. And I think that's been truly exciting. Yeah, I think in terms of surprises, definitely, I think one was almost fairly recently that we had a webinar coming up on reducing single-use plastics. And we did receive a call from a recycling organization that they were not so happy actually with our title and the upcoming webinar. They wanted to be included. So yeah, I think it was quite a surprise, a bit of a shock almost for our team that we are really on the radar. And I think that's great because it also shows that reuse is kind of finding its way and growing in that sense. I do think for me, well, I think a very personal one was for sure throughout that 3 years, I was also with the team on climbing the landfill of Bintang outside of Jakarta, one of the biggest landfills in Southeast Asia. And that, yeah, I mean, I'm an outdoor lover and I've been seeing I've been climbing quite a couple of mountains, but I think that was by far the most stunning and memorable. And yeah, also fueling that passion on the work we're doing for sure. But of course, yeah, as you can imagine, building new ventures is not always easy. So we, of course, had our failures, our surprises. So I think when we started with Kios, which is a refill solution for high density areas like apartment buildings, etc., where people can just kind of conveniently in front of their door refill soap, dishwash, detergent. Actually, one of the first prototypes was mismatched to be understood as a hand sanitizer. So yeah, people thought it's actually just a public hand sanitizer. I guess probably also given the situation in the world a little bit. But that was definitely a good learning for us that we have to contextualize our solution even more and really design with that in mind. I think another one was probably also really the startup life, I guess, was with our venture in Indonesia. So that's a refill water solution for the hospitality sector to free them from single-use plastic bottles. And they're actually, well, in the start, of course, we didn't have technicians in all areas. So we always had my colleague Tauhid and Pandu as a backup technician. But yeah, you can imagine that led, of course, them not being trained as technician led to quite a messy situation. Yes, all the way. Water all over the place, wet clothes, the full story. So yeah, I guess that was a good training for us to come up with smart ways how we can actually also train our team in remote areas, have video content, etc. So yeah, I think that's maybe some of the highlights.
Great, thank you. Well, you make it clear that building ventures is literally getting your hands dirty, putting your real sweat in it. Well, thanks a lot. We said it before, we've reached a lot, but there's still quite a lot of stuff to be done, which is an understatement, I think, to make reuse mainstream. And there's lots of organizations and people here in the room that are working on it. So, Anna, can you share your learnings and what would be 3 things you could recommend people that start with us working on the reuse ecosystems in the coming years?
Yeah, sure. Great question. Thanks for that. And of course, also maybe also already as a sneak preview, there is a lot more, of course, these learnings to find in our upcoming impact report that we'll be sharing after this webinar. I think 3 that kind of stand out for me personally. One is actually be patient. because I think system change requires quite a lot of movement building. It requires actually to really educate and influence the market, and that can sometimes take time. But it's definitely worth it, and dare to collaborate with others, because that's really going to fuel it. I think in terms of the type of solutions, probably also coming from my background as a designer, make sure to build solutions that are desirable, because I think there's sometimes a misconception that people believe just because it's impactful is going to fly. But I think it's pretty key that you actually have to make sure it's really convenient for consumers. They're going to love it. It's affordable for all. It's accessible and actually making their life easier. And then as a third, really kind of find the sweet spot and kind of designing it for scalability. That means tackle high volume waste streams, high urgency, high willingness to pay. For example, if we talk about sachets, that's of course a solution, like an issue where there's no solutions on the market. So really trying to find the sweet spot to build something where it's most urgent and highly scalable to develop a solution.
Okay, thanks. So be patient. Desirable solutions for everyone, and think about scalability and where to make most of the impact. Right. And Michiel, then I would lastly, that's the last part, we really focus on Zero Waste Living Life, the program, but what's next for us? What are we going to do the coming years to contribute to this ecosystem?
Interesting question. So I would say, if I look back at the last 3 years and why we started, I can only be very happy and proud, right? So an amazing job and results on building the ventures and driving the narrative forward here. But on the other hand, if you're critical, it was just the first step, right? So we have the intention of a reuse revolution, a global revolution, to make it a new normal, and we're just at the beginning. And I think, speaking for ourselves, but hopefully for everybody in this room, but also everybody outside of this room, we really have to step up our game if we want to bring this to scale and make reuse really the new normal in this world. So again, just at the beginning. And if I would look at what we see as stepping up our game, let's put it like that, I think there are 4 things we will be doing. So one is, we really have to bring our solutions to scale if we want to drive the market forward. And that means that we have to work on increasing investment capital, both for our venture, but also for solutions in the reuse space. By definition, we were speaking today about that too. And I think it's crucial, because if we want to catalyze these ventures through the pioneer gap, more money needs to flow into these kind of solutions. Secondly, we truly believe if we want to flip a market, then we need business to change. We need business, in this case, FMCGs, retailers, to transition to include and adopt reuse in their value chain. So we will be working actively with these businesses to help them bring that change. Thirdly, I would say, and I've also spoke about it, in the end, the only way a system changes if the whole system works differently, with the right incentives, the right policy, the right ecosystem, the right supporting system, and the right sort of mindset and awareness around it. So for us, it will be crucial to support that transition of the ecosystem by using our solutions as a driving force, by using our position, by using sort of our knowledge around that, and our project together with Plastic Solutions and Plastic Diet is an important one for that. How can we really help to sort of provide the change in the market? And the fourth one is, again, we have just begun. We're in Indonesia, we're working in Malaysia now, but the world is quite bigger than that. So we have the ambition to grow our activities and program both in Southeast Asia, but also really looking at India and Africa, if we can replicate and build on what we've learned so far. So ambition is big, and I agree with you, Laura, what you said in the beginning. We see sort of all signs are on green for the momentum. Awareness is increasing, governments are more aware, corporates seem to be becoming more responsible and committed to driving change and more solutions. So let's go for 2022 to be the breakthrough for reuse. We believe we can. At least we will, I would say, die trying, because we'll put everything in there to make that a reality. So hopefully this webinar also helps in doing that.
Great, thank you very much, Michiel. Yes, so I retain scaling up our ventures, scaling up our collaborations, and really, well, the world is our, I would not say our playground, but is our ambition. Yes, thank you. I'd like to move to a second topic. One of our ventures is tackling a very important issue, namely sachets. Sachets are very difficult to recycle, and they have a high risk to leak into the oceans. So that's why Koinpack is focusing on sachets. And to make that solution really work, they have collaborated a lot with other partners. We would like to discuss with you how we set up those collaborations. And one is a collaboration with ALPLA, a global leader in packaging. And the other one, we'll get to that later, is a collaboration with a very local organization, namely a waste pack. We're very happy to have both representatives here in the webinar. First, Danilo Grieco, he is the innovation manager at ALPLA. Thank you for joining. And Bintang as well, our venture builder and director, founder of Koinpack. Thank you for joining us. I would like to start with Bintang. Can you, in a very short manner, explain to us what does Koinpack do in Jakarta?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Hi, everyone. Glad to join this webinar. So basically, Koinpack is a reuse system for daily needs, such as home care products like detergent, dish care, and also personal care, such as shampoo, body soap that are provided in returnable and reusable packaging. We're working with local warung stores to promote these products, and then later we expand to community-based channels, which are very unique as our partner in promoting these products. They are West banks and also peer-to-peer networks. We're also later expanding to direct sales through our web store and also social commerce. So basically, the way how it works is people can easily purchase this product in those sales channels, paying a little extra in front, and then they can finish the products, return the empty bottles back to those sales channels, and they will receive cash back for this new habit. Yeah, we're also working with FMCG partners as well as packaging producers such as ALPLA.
Thank you very much, Bintang. I see Sankalita Shom is raising her hand. Is it okay if I take your question after this session? We're happy to have it. And I would also like to encourage other people to ask their questions in the chat. Thank you for introducing Koinpack, Bintang. Danilo, I'd like to give the floor to you. You're the innovation manager at ALPLA. Can you explain to us why a global leader in packaging solutions decided to enter into a partnership with Koinpack and what your role is there?
Yeah, hello, thanks for having me. We got to know Koinpack, or rather Enviu, via the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So this shows that the foundation is a great place that for young enterprises and established businesses to meet on equal footing and jointly tackle big problems in a synergistic way. We like the vision of Koinpack to tackle the litter-prone sachet with a solution or a reusable system that also provides additional consumer benefit. And this seemed quite logical for us. And also because the sachet is, of course, harming the reputation of plastics a lot, and this means also our own. As an enterprise, we've been in reusable beverage bottles for many years, but the market segments which Bintang just described, the home care and the personal care, we have no experiences yet. And I think nobody really has experience how a rigid plastics packaging can fare in such a scenario. So we also have a lot of technical interest to learn together there on this side. So and our role in the project is to, of course, to bring in technical expertise where we can, and the focus is naturally on the packaging side. This means we bring in expertise in plastics and their properties, bottle cleaning, recycling, designing for reuse, cost indications, and of course we also supply bottles and caps for the project. So really excited to see where the journey goes.
Okay, thank you, Danilo. I would actually like to ask the same question to Bintang as Koinpack. What in this partnership convinces you that it is of an added value for Koinpack to work with ALPLA?
Yeah, so first of all, I think for a startup or early stage venture, it's very important to work with like existing corporates which already has established infrastructure. We're trying to capitalize or to leverage this existing infrastructure to speed up, to accelerate the adoption of this new solution in the market. So I think that is the first reason that why we are convinced to work with large corporate such as ALPLA, which has very deep knowledge in terms of packaging. I think that's very good match with what Koinpack needs, which is we're developing reusable packaging for the consumer. And I think second is, in general, working with this, again, corporates, not just the packaging producers such as ALPLA, but also our FMC partners in general will accelerate the adoption or the reception of this new solution in the market, especially in Indonesia and Jakarta.
Thank you. So indeed, sharing expertise as a complementary expertise helps us accelerate these reuse solutions faster. Well then, ALPLA, you decided to work with Koinpack. Can you share a couple of learnings with us, and what did you learn on working with startups during the journey? And what would you say to other corporates is crucial when working with startups?
Well, first of all, I think it's paramount to really take off the corporate goggles and recognize and appreciate the fact that there's very different strengths, weaknesses, and ways of working. And if it's done in the right way, I think wonderful things can happen, but it requires really adopting a different way of thinking. Established enterprises, of course, with their practices and processes, which have been proven over decades often, have a very hard time changing things up and challenging what has worked for them for a long time, or also allocating resources to try out new stuff. I think they're very strong when they are executing towards a clear and clearly defined goal with a predictable outcome, really good at then bundling resources and getting the job done. But they really seem to struggle when a more dynamic approach is required, and it's not very clear where the journey is going yet. So that's how I would say it. And the small enterprise, on the other hand, excels at exactly that. They explore an idea in very lean fashion, leverage, and they experiment a lot and then change directions within days if it needs to be, and they drop what does not help to deliver the desired results and leverage what does. And this playfulness and this willingness to really go ahead with an imperfect solution at first, and accepting the fact that some of the questions will have to be answered along the way. This is, I think, what many large corporations are missing, and probably for good reason. And of course, there's the topic of resources. I think working in a corporate, some things are often taken for granted without a second thought. I remember when I asked Bintang to provide some samples from Jakarta to Austria. And when he inquired whether he could invoice me the shipping costs, it suddenly dawned on me, and I must say I was a bit embarrassed that it didn't so sooner. Well, because while on a corporate level, most would agree that such a minor amount is not worth talking about, for a startup at an early stage, such amounts in fact do matter a lot. And the same goes for regulatory affairs, legal compliance, logistics, you name it. All the large corporations have dedicated resources and experts and contacts for every subject matter, and that can make a big difference for a startup, while it means very little effort on the corporate end. So by sharing some of these resources, the corporate enables the younger enterprise to focus on where it is superior, which means executing on the ground with passion and in swift fashion, and generating learnings at a pace that corporate would not even dare dreaming about.
Thank you very much. It sounds like you would do it again.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would actually like to ask the same question to Bintang. I can imagine there's also lots that we learned working with corporates as a startup.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think it's very important in the beginning that yeah, things that are crucial to us. I think in the beginning we have to make sure that all of the involved stakeholders, partners are fully aligned, because I think things will get tough in the journey, and it will. So I think aligning the same vision and mission to you know, in Koinpack's case is to replace single-use plastics at the source using this reusable and alternative delivery system, making sure that it is aligned, and then the journey will get tough. Then we'll be staying together. I mean, along the journey, as Danilo said as well, that sharing the resources will also make this journey much easier, I think. And the second is we need to understand that and manage the unique needs or skills of different partners. Danilo also perfectly mentioning that you know, like for our startup, it's very on our plate to execute this idea on the ground, while these big corporates can provide with their established expertise as well as resources in terms of funding, knowledge, inventory, you name it. And I think the third one is it's very important to have like lean thinking, or usually I would say like just go for it. I mean, as lean as possible, because I think we will not solve today's urgent issues just by talking about them. And yeah, let's learn by doing. I think in this case with ALPLA and Danilo, I think I've been already experiencing that kind of vibe when we're working together. So it's very lean and very innovative mindset as well. So yeah, I think those are three points that I think is very crucial when a startup is working with established corporate.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Bintang, for this answer. I see there's a question in the chat on how Koinpack is working and making a return system with sachets, which are such a small quantity possible. I would like to suggest that we answer this question in the chat because we're because of the time constraint, and then we can definitely dive into it later if needed. Well, thank you, Danilo, for that part on talking about how to work with as a startup with a larger global leader. I would actually like to shift the topic now to a much more local scale, because Koinpack has also been working with warming banks, and we've invited the director of the Nusantara waste bank, Fitria Ariyani, to this session to tell us how we've worked together on such a local level to create adoption. Fitria, welcome. You are the director of the waste bank Nusantara, one of the biggest waste banks in Indonesia. Could you take us quickly along what is a waste bank and why did you decide to work together with Koinpack? And we will have Aninda help in the translation to English, right?
Yeah, okay. Hi, Lord. And hi, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm glad can be here with you all. About Wasbank, maybe some like the other banking. If you already see about banking, you know there is a transaction, and then you have customer and you have a saving book. And some with us in Wasbank, but our transaction is not money. Our transaction is about waste. The people come to us and they bring all of unorganic waste, and then they saving in our waste bank. They can get money from that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think people in the waste bank need to recycle the waste and they sell it through, and that's how they can give money back to people that give their waste back.
Yes, they with their waste they can change with the money, or they can pay insurance, or they can get electricity bills and the others. Then why we decide collaboration with Koinpack? Of course, Koinpack is what have I been looking for, because in our Wasbank, our activity is not just about transaction waste, but we have activity, campaign, socialization, and then we must try to application about 5R: reuse, reduce, recycle, and then now refill with a Koinpack. Because our problem in West Bank, there is more customer. They always say to us, how about our sachet waste? Because there is a lot of sachet waste, and then in West Bank, there is no value in West Bank, the sachet waste. Before we meet Koinpack, there was always we took we make eco brick with the sachet waste, but since we meet in with Koinpack, Alhamdulillah, we can say with our customer, they can buy product, not buy packaging product. This is very interesting for us.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much. Though I think you're saying there is no solution yet for the sachets, for the rounds, I would like to ask that question as well to Bintang. Maybe you can give short answer on it. Like a lot of informal settlers, they do depend on plastics to sustain their living, right? Is Koinpack then challenging those livelihoods, or like Fitria is saying, is sachets really out of the question? And what role and responsibility do you see for other social startups in this field to integrate these local communities in your system?
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura, for the question. I think Ibu Fitria has already answered that question as well, that Koinpack is basically trying to replace and reduce single-use sachets or pouches, which are considered as flexible packaging. And in the, let's say, in the recycling ecosystem, I think those flexible packaging, don't have, or like having very minimum value, as Ibu Fitria already said. So in that case, we're not disturbing that kind of livelihoods of the informal settlers are currently having, because they are also usually collecting like high value plastics such as PET or PP that are more valued in terms of recycle. while Koinpack is clearly targeting those flexible packaging such as sachets and pouch, which already confirmed that yeah, it doesn't have any value or very minimum value even in the West Bank, which I think also the form of informal collectors as well, like, you know, supporting the infrastructure of collecting waste in Indonesia. So yeah, I think that is the difference, and we're not basically not trying to, you know, disturbing those kind of livelihoods of the informal
Is
sector.
there a way that you add value to those local communities and waste banks?
Yeah, besides we're selling this product, actually we're also trained and also empowering this, we call them as mitra or partners. For example, with this West Bank, we're not just dropping products and then just leaving them, but we're also conducting, you know, regular meeting to understand what they need to be able to promote this product easily to the market. So we're also giving them sort of like trainings, empowering them with collaterals, or selling materials that can help them to be a, you know, like a better seller in the market. Because for example, like in the peer-to-peer networks, most of them are not having experience in selling previously, but with Koinpack, we're trying to work together with them and then we're training them. So yeah, I think that's one of the additional benefit. Of course, they also get additional income increase, right, by selling this product. So I think besides environmental impact, there is also economic impact for them.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Fitria, would you like to share as well, according to you, what is the value that Koinpack is bringing, and also what do you think is needed to grow Koinpack even further the coming years?
Yeah, I think the key value is very important. The important is Koinpack can tackling sachet maybe because in our collaboration with Koinpack, I always discuss with Mas Bintang because our vision and mission is not only get profit, but we want create benefit for our environmental. And then Mas Bintang can give us about if you buy some product, you can saving the sachet waste for a long time. Then maybe this is the point for us. This is the point for us because it's a long time for us to find alternative solution. Maybe if we want the green product, if we want just want buy the product, but the price is very familiar or for us, for community, it's much better. And then Koinpack can give that for us.
So need that the price for the Koinpack products is actually similar, but at the same time you're tackling the sachet issues.
Yeah, because maybe in our community, most of us, maybe the mothers, the women, maybe sometimes we the community look at the price, and then they can get to impact in economic impact. Yeah, they can saving more, and then in environmental they can save about waste.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Fitria, for joining us. I heard indeed that it was a bit tricky for you to join, and I can see it because you're also on the way. But it's great that you actually made it happy. No, no problem.
I'm so sorry.
No
I'm so
worries.
sorry.
We're very honored that you took the time and the effort to join us still in this webinar.
Yeah, I love to sharing to you all because I'm very happy with collaboration with Koinpack, and then sama aja sih. Always discuss with Mas Bintang, your access now only in Jabodetabek, and maybe in next month, I don't want in next year, maybe in next month, your access can be to around Indonesia. Yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So
Well,
we're on that, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both for this discussing with us this topic on both sachets and on how to collaborate with other organizations. Then I would like to move to the third topic. We have been zooming into deep into how to make these solutions work, what are the kind of solutions that are needed, but we all know that also an ecosystem needs to be built. So I would like to talk more about that with Christopher Brick, who is the project lead of CCAP at GIZ, and with Tiza Mafira, who is the executive director at Plastik. So we're talking with them about the role of governments, cities, and policy to build the reuse ecosystem. We're working together with both of them on food delivery packaging, looking into alternatives to deliver food to places, certainly, as also this type of packaging is very difficult to recycle, as actually not, and has skyrocketed because of the pandemic, as we all know. So it is crucial to look into solutions for that, but also to build an enabling system to make these solutions work. Thank you for joining us, Christopher Brick and Tiza Mafira. Christopher, I would actually like to start with you. You are the lead of CAPC at GIZ. You said post-pandemic, but also in general, what do you think is needed to bring these reuse solutions to scale in terms of the enabling environments?
Right. Hi, Laura. Hi, everybody. And thank you very much for inviting us to this webinar. I'm very happy to be here. And yeah, about your question, I think to bring reuse solutions to scale, we need to look at the demand side and the supply side of the market for reuse solutions. And on the demand side, of course, we have the consumers. And here in Thailand, where I currently live, I can see there is basically a big scare by consumers about reuse solutions. Some reuse solutions had been in Thailand already quite established. For example, bring your own cup when you go to a coffee shop. And all of this has been discontinued because of COVID. Even though there is guidance, right, on that it can be COVID safe if it's properly cleaned and handled. Here in Thailand, at least, and I think in Southeast Asia, there is kind of an equation of hygiene with single use. And I think to overcome this perception, a lot of awareness raising and education will be needed to work on the demand side. But not more importantly, but more with regards to what we are also doing in CAPC and also what we're doing in our cooperation with you is on the supply side. And here I think the framework conditions are key. So the policies that actually shape the market for reuse. And I think here we have a lot of very good examples right now from the EU Commission's Single-Use Plastic Directive. And this is also the basis of our consultancy work and advisory work here in Southeast Asia for CAPC. So on the one hand, to implement measures that reduce the availability of putting onto the market single-use items. So when you have the situation that alternatives clearly exist, for example, cutlery plates, straws, and cotton buds are now soon forbidden to be put onto the market single-use in Europe, to have bans, to have clear reduction targets for products where solutions are still in a nascent stage. And I think what you were just talking about, the food containers, reusable food containers, reusable cups is such a case where countries are now in Europe setting very clear targets on the reduction of such items onto the market. I think the policies for deposit refund systems are important. Germany and many European countries have a long history of deposit refund systems for beverage containers, not for all of them because of lobbying and This will change now with the Single-Use Plastic Directive and the respective transposition into national laws. But also one quite interesting law, an update of the packaging law in Germany is coming into effect in 2023, next year. And this is that anybody who puts onto the market food for immediate consumption or for to go will be required to provide a reusable packaging alternative at no extra cost to the consumer. And of course, such a regulation gives a huge boost, right, to business models such as Tupperware and the ones that you are incubating, but also the ones existing in Germany at the moment. Such policies, I think, are key to to drive and to really scale up the reuse development. But in order for such solutions to be effective and such policies to be possible, of course, the solutions first of all need to exist. And in this regard, we see, I think, in Europe, a lot of those solutions now coming to a more advanced stage. But in Southeast Asia, really, it's very less. And that's why we are so happy to be partnering also with Enviu to incubate, based on your experience in Indonesia, such solutions for Malaysia, and also with your support here in Thailand, because you can only make such a regulation if there is any experience existing with alternatives. So I think this will be key. And then, of course, also the cooperation with larger corporates, the integration of food delivery solutions with the food delivery providers that have already a large market penetration. So I think the cooperation aspect that you also mentioned earlier will be key.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so indeed, I hear the combination of enabling policies, making throwaway packaging less interesting for companies to use, and providing the solution at the same time.
Right.
I would like to encourage indeed also our attendees to share your questions in the chat, because we're very happy to answer them later. Tiza, over to you. You're the Executive Director of Plastic Bag Diet. You've been leading the change on banning plastic bags in Jakarta. Congratulations on that. We would like to hear from you, what are the roles of cities and municipalities to push for reuse solutions?
Sure, Laura, and hi everyone. Hi, Christopher. Glad to be here. I think the role of cities and municipalities is crucial, given, I think they have two roles. First, as a user itself, and number two, as an enabler for solutions to scale up. And they can enable by regulating, they can enable by simply making a statement is already enabling. So, just reflecting on our experience pushing for a plastic bag ban in Jakarta and working directly with the Jakarta city government in preparing for this, they played both roles. So something that's probably lesser known is that perhaps 6 months before the regulation was actually signed by the governor, he specifically requested that there was an internal regulation first that only applied to government agencies, city government agencies, that would basically require all meetings to have no plastic, and replace it with, food that comes in paper boxes and comes wrapped in banana leaves and things like that. The idea being that the Jakarta city government wanted to show that they can themselves do this, that they can themselves show that they are leaders in this field, and so build, people's trust that this is actually doable and can be scaled, citywide. So that happened, and 6 months, around 6 or 8 months later, the plastic bag ban that applied citywide itself was released. And since then, it created a buzz, and it's achieved a significant amount of plastic bag reduction. So I would imagine the same thing would need to happen for reuse solutions, where facilities that are owned by the city of Jakarta or city-owned, state-owned enterprises that are owned by the city of Jakarta actually become first movers or early movers, adopting reuse systems within their operations, while also designing regulations that would enable a scale-up, such as the ones that we've seen in Europe.
That's a very nice example. Thank you for that. So indeed, having governments and municipalities really as the users and first movers. Thanks. Christopher, I would like to hear from you. Indeed, like you discussed on a larger level, what do you see happening in the world from governments that are setting up enabling policies? At CAPC, how are you working with governments to make this happen?
Right. Yeah, thanks for the question. And I would just like to actually second what Tiza said on really the crucial role of municipalities, and kind of like this example of a form of green public procurement or government procurement solution. So just this year, so basically 20 days ago, a new legislation in the city of Freiburg in Germany came into effect, where the city of Freiburg actually now charges a levy on any single-use plastic or any single-use packaging for food that is sold for immediate consumption. So up to €1.50 can be charged on top of the actual food. So this is, I think, a very strong signal, a very strong measure. McDonald's is already suing the city of Freiburg for that. So. But they were expecting it. But yeah, just one example also what a city concretely can do. But yeah, with regards to your question, CAPC project, I need to say this, we are funded completely by the German government, by the German Ministry for the Environment, and it stands for Collaborative Actions to Prevent Single-Use Plastics. And we operate in Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And we basically have three pillars of our work. The one is policy advice, where we set up multi-stakeholder and interministerial working groups to provide advisory services on different topics. In CAPC, we work on the topic of strengthening the recycling market and strengthening a domestic recycling market to increase the use of recyclates and limit the consumption of virgin plastics. And here we work on topics such as recycled content targets, which have proven very effective in Europe. And together with subject matter experts from Germany and Europe, we then give very specific technical advice, but also bring together practitioners from the industry, policymakers from Europe, together with the stakeholders from our partner countries in dialogue formats to share the experiences and show what is possible. And then go more into detail in co-creative deep dive workshops to actually co-create policy recommendations that are adjusted and adapted to the respective national context. In Malaysia, we also do advisory work on EPR. And another topic that we work on is bio-based and biodegradable plastics, which is a very big topic, I think, especially in East Asia, and is often seen as a solution to the single-use plastic problem. We actually don't see that as a solution. We actually believe that single-use is the problem, whether it be single-use plastic or single-use paper or single-use agricultural based products. And so we really believe that when you look at the LCA studies, in the vast majority of cases, reuse applications have the better resource efficient performance. So our advisory services really always goes towards reuse. Lastly, we also advise on economic and fiscal measures. Very important, of course, how can you shape, we talked about this before, the market conditions, what kind of taxes, what kind of levies, but also what kind of incentives can you give to the market actors. And second is we develop industry guidelines and standards. Here we work together with the industry to develop design for recycling standards. So to hopefully increase the supply of high quality recyclate, and also share the experience of how industry-wide cooperation, starting from the resin producer all the way to the recycler, can look like to develop design guidelines that fit the recycling technology of the respective country. And then lastly, we run pilot projects in Phuket, Shah Alam, and Jakarta, where we working together with Enviu, working together with Plastic Diet, with Tiza. We advise municipalities on their single-use plastic reduction plans, on good experiences, for example, reuse obligations for festivals or for local events. We work together with local businesses and help them identify measures that they can take in the hotel sector in Phuket, but also the walking streets and markets and restaurants. And in Shah Alam, focusing really here also on the incubation, of course, of the reuse service providers together with you. So yeah, it is an approach really looking at the policy advice, working with the industry and innovative solutions, and hoping that we can contribute a little piece to that puzzle.
Christopher, yeah, indeed, and building the knowledge that is needed to make these decisions, right? I like what you said also about the city in Germany, because, well, this also, of course, helps the business models for these solutions to become, to have an equal playing field, let's say, with existing single-use plastics. It's interesting to see how that can move forward. And I would actually like to mention what we are working on together, are the standards indeed for reuse packaging, which is also interesting. But I'll leave the word also to Tiza, who can probably indeed complement to this. What do you see in Jakarta that governments still need to do to make reuse scale? Which opportunities are still out there?
Yeah, very much following the structure or the building blocks that Christopher mentioned. I don't think it's only just Jakarta as well. There needs to be some intervention from the central government as well. I guess there are three big building blocks that I would mention. Number one being clear regulation that pushes for a reuse solution to be part of a mainstream and dominant solution for single-use plastic pollution. At the moment in the Ministry of Environment, they have a regulation that asks producers to plan a phase out of single-use plastics in the next 10 years, 8 years now, since 2022. Phase out single-use plastics by 2030. By 2030, no more plastic bags, no more plastic cutlery, no more styrofoams and straws. But the regulation falls short of actually forcefully, providing consequences for producers who fail to comply. And it also doesn't clearly mention reuse as a solution. It does mention things like you need to redesign your packaging, but it falls short of mentioning reuse. So I think there needs to be a little bit more effort to push them in that direction. And hopefully we'll see some regulations cropping up similar to what Christopher mentioned in Europe, where establishments are actually required to provide reuse packaging. So that's the first one. And then the second one is fiscal incentives. And that is also being floated by the central government for a few years now, where the idea of a plastic tax has been discussed and has gone in and out of the parliament several times. And at first there seemed to be some momentum for it before the pandemic, but then the pandemic hit and everybody started using plastic. And now the priority has shifted to a carbon tax, and the government wants to goal the carbon tax first and has set aside the plastic tax discussion. So I think, that needs to stay on the agenda. And to be honest, I'm quite happy that it was delayed, because it was only a very small scope. It was only a plastic tax on, I think, plastic bags, which is not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for a tax on virgin plastic production. pellets, the more upstream, the better. So hopefully that comes in the next few years and is seriously pursued by the government. The third one is standards. And, there is a need to talk about reuse standards. Same as there is standards for, the various types of single-use plastics that are being used to package food and cosmetics and drugs. Reuse has to go the same way because we want reuse to be as comprehensive, as large scale as all those single-use plastic packaging that is currently being used by industry. So we do really need to have a discussion on what kind of reuse standards is acceptable for not just the industry, but also for government safety regulators. Right now, we're dealing with consumers who are rather irrational, I have to say. I mean, and justifiably so. I mean, we don't always act as rational creatures. For example, I know this story about how customers are asking, whether their reuse containers are, are hygienic, and they don't want to use reuse containers when they have food delivery because they feel rather uncomfortable that it's been used by somebody else. But when they go to a restaurant, they actually eat at a restaurant, they are using, cutleries and utensils and plates that have been used by somebody else. And they don't, we don't have a problem with that. So it's kind of an irrational fear that is there because of because for years we've been so used to the idea that things are sanitized when they are wrapped in single-use plastic. And so we just have to get around that. And I think having government standards will help provide that signal that reuse is safe. And yeah, so hopefully those three building blocks we're working on those as well. And with the support of GIZ, with Enviu. So hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at Texas, but also what I hear is keep the momentum. We're not entirely there yet, and indeed give it the same body and infrastructure, like as if mainstream things that are there already. Yes, it's still quite new probably in that end. Well, thank you very much, Christopher and Tiza, for that discussion. It's very interesting to see what the role of municipalities and governments can be in there, and how it also indeed obviously connects with the solutions that are there, so that both are intertwined. And that's obviously also why we are working together closely. So I'm looking forward to continue that the coming years and scaling up reuse. And then I would like to, because I don't see, there are some questions, but I would like to keep them to the end or transfer them to you afterwards, Tiza and Christopher, just because of time. Then I definitely also want to dive into the third topic, which is about investing in these solutions. We have two very interesting speakers here from a very different side of investments. One is from Asian Development Bank, Marianne Bigum, and she is, and the other one is Thierry Sanders, who is a Circular Action Hub director, and he's also done quite some impact investing in circular solutions, more on the particular side. No, more individual investing. First of all, let me introduce to you Marianne. She's Dr. Bigum, an engineer by training, and has for the last 2 years been the team lead at Asian Development Bank for technical assistance project promotion on the project. Let's see, promoting action on plastic pollution from source to sea in Asia and the Pacific. And the technical assistance project of ADB supports the transition of the circular plastics economy with focus on waste prevention, which is why she's with us, and high quality recycling in Southeast Asia. Marianne has worked for the past 10 years with plastic prevention and recycling and establishing a circular plastics economy, primarily in Denmark and in Europe. So she's also very involved in Southeast Asia for the past 2 years. Marianne, I'd like to give the word to you first. We know that investments and grant support in reuse and refill models is still quite niche. It's not for nothing that Michiel at the start of this webinar thanked Greenpeace and our other funders for taking this leap with us in focusing on reuse solutions. It's quite a new narrative. So we'd like to hear from you. What is holding people back and how can we overcome this in the coming years?
Thank you, Laura. Well, it's three things. It's first, policies and regulations are in general aimed and quite developed when it comes to recycling. Obviously, we need to have policy changes also when it comes to recycling, but we have this long tradition with policies and regulations on this aspect of waste and recycling. We have very little experience on waste prevention. So the system, the regulatory system is therefore to a significant higher degree geared towards recycling and less on waste prevention activities. So when circular economy initiatives are required, we tend to go with what we have the experience with, and that is recycling. Also because it seems easier. And also faster to implement due to relatively well-developed value chains and existing legislations. So in short, it also comes down to mindset, that this is the way that we are used to collaboratively to view resources in this aspect, and we need to be changing the mindset a bit to something else. And that is in a busy day always, and especially in the systems, it's not easy. It doesn't come quickly. Secondly, when we talk about recycling, the sector is based for the same reason that I just said, but the sector is quite well defined and somewhat narrow to a smaller group of stakeholders like producers and the waste sector, but also on a governmental level, it's a smaller group of specific ministries and government agencies that has waste responsibilities. Again, these governmental agencies have many years of experience in waste management and recycling and are highly skilled on exactly this with existing networks. But for waste reuse and refill models, they are per definition not waste related, and any activities on these would include a new set of stakeholders like commerce, business, retail, service sector, and also a new group of governmental agencies related to the field of business and trade. So in addition to a new set of view, we also need to be setting up new networks and partnerships in order to kind of move on this agenda. Yeah. So this group is rooted in the linear economy. They have not been a part of, or to a much less degree, a part of this whole discussion that we've had over the last 10, 15 years that we've had in the waste sector, where we came to the conclusion that circular economy also is about resource reuse and refill activities and waste prevention. But the other group that actually needs to be involved in this transition, they haven't been part of the process. So they're to a less degree skilled in identifying business opportunities and regulatory opportunities, and to kind of view what is the business support in the green transition. And we, I think, in the waste family haven't been very well good to include and build the capacity with this group that we are now depending on. Third, when it comes to recycling, it's just more easy compared to reuse and refill models. In principle, you don't have to collaborate a lot. You can set up a plant, receive some waste, recycle and sell the product on an open market. But if you want to set up something on refill and reuse, you need to set up an entire logistics return system. You need to not only sell your product, but also collaborate with the consumer and retailer to get the packaging back or product back. So in addition to selling a product, you have to set up an entire efficient collection system, which we haven't even solved when it comes to waste, but are now putting on top of this for when it comes to refillable models and reuse models. And you need to collaborate with a multitude of different partners, in addition to having a new set of supportive legislation, policies, and financial incentives to make it actually also financially sustainable and upscalable. So I'm a firm believer that we can do it, but I also see what we need to do. And I think that, well, we need to be upscaling a lot, and a lot of things needs to happen at once.
Yes, okay, thank you, Mariana. Yeah, so you made a clear picture of what the barriers were the past years of having finance fuel into reuse and refill solutions. It's a lot about also indeed getting everyone on board of this and really shifting the mindset, which obviously takes time. And I think it's very recognizable from what we've done at Enviu. Anna or Michiel shared at the beginning, people were like, reuse what? And now people start to understand what we mean with alternative delivery systems. The narrative is shifting. Of course, that's why there's also still a lot to be done and why we should now also take the government along. Thank you very much for that. I would actually like to stay with you because we're now focusing that much on institutional funding. So I'd like to hear from you, what do you see as opportunities then for institutional funders to start bridging those gaps and have finance fuel towards reuse solutions?
I see it really as a key opportunity, and I'm speaking from an Asian point of view because I don't see the same in Europe, but especially in Southeast Asia and the countries that we're working with, that there really is a sincere and ambitious request for the governments in Southeast Asia to solve the issues of plastic pollution and to supplement it with strong policies and financial instruments. I'm based in Denmark, and here it's all about how can we as little as possible do anything on policies, but we're hearing the opposite when we are talking to the government agencies in Southeast Asia. And that's really positive because we really have the opportunity to build a new system. We don't have to replicate the same road that we took other places. We can do it much more efficiently this time. And so there really is an understanding of the need in Southeast Asia also for the value of collaborations across different sectors with the engagement specifically of the informal sector, civil society organizations in developing the solutions. Also, I see this approach of taking a system point of view or a holistic approach to when we design the models and the projects, where we both bring in not only, it's not just about selling a technology, but really thinking about the whole the whole system and how policies can. So this is the opportunities really to do it well. And I'm hopeful because we are getting some really good feedback, and that's what we're doing in our project.
Okay, thank you very much. Designing holistic projects. It's what I retain in 3 words, but thank you very much. Yes. To end this discussion on finance, I would like to invite Thierry Sanders, who has a completely different angle, much more from a private, that's the word I was looking for, private angle on finance. Thierry, you're the co-founder of the Bali Investment Club, which is an Indonesian impact fund. You lived and worked in Indonesia for the past 10 years. And while you're now in Indonesia, director of Circular Action BV, which coordinates collection of packaging waste for multinationals in developing countries by engaging waste pickers via an app called Collect. And besides that, you've also worked as the impact investor in the investment club in Bali with several circular solutions on the ground. So yes, looking forward to hear from your angle. What has been your experience as an impact investor in reuse models, and what do you see as interesting opportunities for other investors? And what surprised you? What are still the biggest challenges?
Thank you very much for inviting me. And can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you said that I'm currently based in Indonesia, but my sweater gives it away. I've actually come back from Indonesia after working for 10 years in Indonesia, and I've been back in Holland for 6 months. And what I really find amazing is that the amount of plastic and packaging waste that I'm putting out on the street every 2 weeks is far more here than we ever had living in Indonesia. So let's say packaging in supermarkets is a much bigger issue than packaging in my experience in Indonesia. Of course, collections is another big difference between the countries. So I just wanted to dispel some of that myth. So yeah, I've been in the impact investing space since 2004, and recently in Bali set up the Bali Investment Club, and we are investing in businesses all over Indonesia, including companies like Grieco System. In my previous funds in Nazava, which is a water filter company, and I think what I would just like to share now is what are the criteria that we look at if we're looking at deals in the reuse, refill, or alternative distribution systems. And number one is there are so many ideas out there, but there's very poor execution.
Yep.
So now, to avoid the issue of good ideas and poor execution, you have to make sure that the companies have actually executed, have base revenues. Otherwise, we will not touch it. So one example, and I put right next to me here, is the soda stream, which some of you may know, which is basically to put soda in your water. And SodaStream started in 1905 in England, and it probably went bankrupt a couple of times, but it's now an Israeli company and it's NASDAQ listed. PepsiCo has a big partnership with it, and I think that sort of indicates that a company like SodaStream, or the Soda Club as it was called first, went through a lot of pivots before actually taking off. And the partnership with PepsiCo has, really made the company explode. So Pepsi Cola is offering the syrups to make these products, tasty and nice and everything like that. So, so I think this ability to execute and having revenues, having a customer base is really important. Number two is many of the refill reuse concepts that I initially saw were focused on a niche customer base. So they're looking at the preaching to the converted. So they're selling to eco-minded customers. And so this is also an area which we will absolutely not touch because the market base is too small. So we need to look for refill, reuse products which have actually engaged with the lower and the middle income customers. So, I'm absolutely, I think it's fantastic what Kios and Koinpack are doing. Koinpack is going exactly into that segment. And hello, Bintang. Hope to speak to you again soon. But Kios also, it's based in the apartment buildings where the customers are. So, they have really gone for that kind of thing. Whereas if you look at the zero waste stores, they are preaching to the converted. And, this will absolutely not grow, but it may be a very interesting R&D space to look for the items, the products that are scaling. Now, so this is on a B2C level, but however, there are also a lot of interesting B2B investments to be done. And this is where Econesia, I think, really kicked off well, because Econesia wanted to partner with hotels and therefore sell through the franchise of the hotels. And so I think Econesia will probably struggle because it's quite expensive to sell in the B2C market. But the B2B market through hotels, fantastic concept. It's just a pity we had a very small pandemic come in the way. So now the third item is you have to realize that customers either have time or money, and you usually don't have both. So the reuse and refill models that we have seen have to either touch the time or the money or both segments. So if you can do both, fantastic. So Kiosk, for example, is able to make it very convenient in terms of time, because you are refilling within your own apartment building, and potentially the unit price could be lower because of the larger volumes for the refill. Whereas Koinpack, because of the volumes of the bottles are larger than the sachets, you're able to touch the money side, so the savings side. So whenever we look at investments, we will tend to avoid any products that are trying to really sell the environmental message. We're looking for the ones that are selling the savings, the on time or money, and other messages. So you see that SodaStream also was pushing the health message for drinking more water, drinking sugar-free syrups and things like that. So, and there was someone earlier today that mentioned how the product is designed is extremely important. So about 25 years ago in South America, I was at a street market together with an economic researcher, and we were trying to research this market for the base of the pyramid, seeing which products would appeal to the lower income customers. And we basically had a stand with fake Rolex that didn't work and a Casio that did work. And people could come and pick one or the other, and at a very low price. And almost everyone would go for the Rolex that did not work, even though it was fake. So it's important that status has to be there. And this is where, for example, a water filter company like Nazava, you started with a sort of a bucket type water filter, which is actually really caught on now. And but it's not really appealingly designed. So they have come up with better designs now to make the product a lot more appealing, even for the low income groups. So I'd like to say something about how to scale these companies.
Yeah.
And
what we have to go to next, of course, indeed, like what we said, there's many pilots, and there some might have a little bit of revenue.
Yeah.
What do you see is what is important for them to scale?
Yeah, so if they touch all the points to invest in the companies, then the next question is, okay, how are we going to get it from here to 100 times revenues or 1,000 times revenues? So in my opinion, to do that, you need to have three conditions for the business. One is anticipated regulations. So I think Tezi mentioned there may be regulations for bans on single use, but enforcement is terrible. So what we are seeing because of EPR regulations, extended producer responsibility regulations in many countries, enforcement is starting to happen, and it's becoming serious. And so if the reuse company and product is in a segment that regulations are really seriously going to happen, that really makes things good. And that is basically how the market for carbon credits took off. It was not because people wanted to buy carbon credits, it's because of the regulations. So it was the stick more than the carrot. Secondly, we want to invest in companies that have their own IP. So, and IP is very broadly defined. So IP, so for example, Kiosk has a refill technology, it's hardware. And we would be very interested in Kiosk if they would design and manufacture their own machines, rather than have IP from, a company elsewhere. So this increases the value of the company. Secondly, IP can also be the reverse logistics that Mariana just talked about. is a major issue in the refill segment. So having cracked the reverse logistics, but also there is software elements. So how do you interact with the customers? And I think Koinpack was also looking into software to have the bottles picked up and things like that, or get deposit fees back. So the software, the hardware, and the logistics is key. If you've got really good IP in that segment, we're very interested to invest, and other investors as well. Now, the real kicker in this market is if you can get a conditional purchase order from a fast-moving consumer goods company. So if, for example, Kiosk or Koinpack has an agreement that once they reach a certain scale, once they're able to deliver volume and quality, and let's say mistakes and errors and everything have been worked out, then us, multinational, whatever we are, could be, you know, Nestle or P&G, or in Indonesia it could be Wings, will partner with you. So if you, so the contract, the conditional purchase order, is a sort of hypothetical contract, but if the conditions are met, then the partnership will take off. And that is what happened to SodaStream. To go back to this machine next to me, is when PepsiCo signed with SodaStream, it took off. Yeah. So those are my points of advice.
Thank you very much. I'm sure they're listening. I hope other parties are listening as well. And well, I think you mentioned quite important topics as well for the more ecosystem focused organizations, that indeed government regulations, etc., also enable these startups to attract finance, because it shows that the system is ready for adoption. Okay, thank you very much. I see one person raising their hands. Maybe first, I would like to thank all our speakers for joining us. It was a great debate. I think we touched upon a lot of subjects that are needed to make reuse and refill solutions fly. One is collaboration on those reuse solutions. Secondly, is looking at the ecosystem and at the role of governments. And thirdly, I think ADB stressed the role of these governments and looking at institutional funding to be addressed in a holistic way, not only on separate technology, for example. And Thierry helped us understand what will be needed to make these solutions fly. I think I cannot stress enough, and that's also what we've seen in this webinar, that collaboration amongst each other is key. It is a system change that is needed, and not we cannot all be good at everything. So it is great that we collaborate with each other, both with the FMCGs, with technology, with the lean startups that can develop the very desirable solutions for customers on the ground, up into governments, policy providers, etc. So, well, I would say this is a call to action to all of us. Reach out to each other, reach out to us if you see opportunities to collaborate with each other. We will share our learnings in the impact report and also through some blogs that are coming up the coming months. So please stay in touch. Great stuff will be happening in 2022. I'm very excited. So now I would want to give the word to Anissa Noor Octaviana. She can better say it herself, probably. You're still on mute, Anissa. So yes, there you go. So please tell us what you would like to ask. Maybe she left. Okay. One other question I think I can ask also to you, Thierry, but maybe also Marianne, because you're focusing on the innovation challenge with ADB. What is the role of digital technologies that you see in reuse taking on? Marianne, would you like to go first?
Oh yeah, actually, I can, but I was also following up in the chat on an additional question you had, but you had said it advance that I didn't get to address. Yeah, on the role of digital technologies, I mean, it is. I really see it having primarily on, well, not just primarily, but a lot on collection and the logistics, but obviously also on when it comes to the recycling. So not only on refill remodels, but yeah, we have that as a specific focus. We actually have a forum next week. I'll share a link where we're focusing on financial and digital technologies when it comes to preventing plastic pollutions in the oceans. Very short. Logistics, I think, would be if I had to say just one thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we have had to develop an app called Collect, which is a bit like for the Indonesians a Gojek for waste, because essentially there are many people who have things to recycle, which could be bottles that could be sent back for refill as well, and yeah, the waste pickers, the logistics players in the supply chain need to know where to pick it up. That not only that, but also the supply chain needs to know what the prices are that are on offer. And so the recyclers and the larger aggregators need to indicate what the buying price is. So if people have supply and they know what the offering price is, then you start getting a market, which you can do with the digital technology, which I think at some point Koinpack will probably, you know, find some customers have hundreds of their bottles. I don't know why, but let's say that happens. Then that customer can offer, I have all these bottles, please come and pick it up because I'm too lazy to bring it to the shop.
Definitely in return logistics, digital solutions can play a big role. I would actually like to end the discussion here. We've run greatly out of time, but I think it were very interesting topics, all of it. If there are questions still popping up, we will forward them to you, to the speakers, if you don't mind, and address them through our social channels. Please, let's stay in touch the coming year. And thank you very much all for joining and for sharing your learnings and insights.
Thank you.
Have a great end of the day or start of the day, depending on where you are.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nou, wacht, ik moet naar buurt zetten. Ik zit er nog in.